pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome. Apologies for the length of our executive session tonight. I think we're going to start with communications from the public and press. I've been given to understand, ma'am, you have a statement you'd like to make before the board?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know I was the only one. Yes, I'm sorry. You want my name down here?
Yes, please tell us your name.
It's Nancy Strunk. And my thing was that, it's relatively minor. I'm sorry about this, but I noticed that this year, I don't know whether it was last year as well, but my elementary students came home with cap and gown photos, requests to take pictures with caps and gowns on. This should be a thing that's only reserved for seniors. You're setting a really bad example for these kids. I mean, they think that, if they walk across the room, they're going to get a participation trophy because they walked across the room. No, you earn that cap and gown. That's a rite of passage of an adulthood. When you switch your tassel from one side to another, you're no longer a child, you're an adult. You graduated from high school, it means something. And by doing this now, you're taking all of that meaning away. Why should a high school kid worry about it? Oh, I got my cap and gown picture when I was in the 6th grade. I'll need it now. And it's just something that's, it's going downhill. The whole thing, the participation trophies. We don't have to work anymore. We don't have to be good at what we do. We can just show up and get an award. We got to do better. We got to be better for our kids. I mean, they're not even learning cursive writing in school, let alone how to write a letter. I mean, this is stuff that all of you guys are a little younger than me. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but they should be learning in the 3rd, at least by the 4th grade, how to write a proper letter in cursive writing. And they're not doing that. I mean, the only thing I hear about is iReady and math online and things like that. The world isn't built on computers. I mean, if the computers are gone tomorrow, what are you guys going to do? How are these kids going to function? They're not. They have to learn some skills that are needed. How are you going to sign a contract if you can't sign your name because you don't know how to write in cursive writing? It just seems, that and the lack of 4-H. We have no 4-H programs up here. We're an agricultural district. It's simple things that should be done to, give these kids something more to do than just go out and look for problems or create problems or, think it's funny to go and do, things that are gonna, get themselves into trouble. I think as people, we can do better. We should be able to do better than this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anybody. It's just
no offense taken.
You know, I think that we can. If we work together, I mean, I'm willing to work with you guys. You know, just even down to the fundraising. You know, why should we be sending home fundraisers that make another company a lot of money when you can just send home a letter and say, hey, we're trying to raise money for these trips. We need a donation of $30 or $40 per child. If we do that, that's fine. Where if you're tasked with having this thing that says, well, you know, the school's going to get 10% and they got $8,000 to raise, I think the numbers like this year worked up to some astronomical thing. It worked out to we were making this company 60 grand to get the $8,000 the elementary school needed. It's a lot easier to ask the parents just, hey, kick in a little money. You know, and people are poor right now. The economy's bad. You know, try and be sensible. Think like us. You know, we're not wealthy.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to address the board? Okay, if not, we will move on to reports from board members. We'll start with the Facilities Committee and Mr. LeBlanc.
So since the last meeting, we met twice. We met at the end of March for our regular meeting at the transportation building. We toured the building. We saw a lot of needs in different sections of the building. So those are for future projects, future investments. We talked about the capital outlay, where we're going to focus our money, 100K. It's mostly going to be for the high school admission and the back hallway here behind the auditorium. We talked about a sign that's going to replace the old Madison sign. It's going to be the same one, but just refreshed, and it's going to be paid by the PTA. And we talked about the capital project coming up. And at that time, we just received the proposals from two good companies, GYMO and CNS. And we concluded the meeting with an invitation to meet again April 10th to see the presentations of those two proposals for construction management. So the second meeting was April 10th at 5 o'clock. We had the King & King representative there to listen to the presentation to help us out. So before that presentation, the committee reviewed the two proposals and looked at the qualification of each vendors, and both companies were very good, but one was standing out, and it's the same one that stood out in the presentation on pricing. So it was an easy decision that we selected GYMO for the construction management project. So essentially, the second meeting was to listen to their presentations, and we debriefed after, and we confirmed our selection at that meeting. And our next meeting is going to be May 19th. That's it. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry. We're recommending to the board. Right in front there.
Yeah, professional services, there's no requirement, state law. Construction management only. I think when if it's voter approved and we get into, if it's voter approved and we go down that path, we'll probably see multiple bids for each component, whether it be the GC or the electrical, plumbing, HVAC.
Okay, Policy Committee met on April 8th in Mr. Burke's office. And the following policies were Erie 1 updates. Policy 755, educational services for married pregnant students. Is that better? Okay. Educational services for married pregnant students. This is a legal update to the policy. New policy language was coming out of the policy number 8130, titled Equal Educational Opportunities. Erie 1 update to 8130, Equal Educational Opportunities. The language was then removed from 8130, that now makes up the previous policy of 7555. And policy 8130, Equal Educational Opportunities, is now listed as policy number 7554. Policy number 5240, School Tax Assessment and Collections / Property Tax Exemptions. We, as a policy committee, recommend to rescind, as this isn't current process. In old business, policy 7131, titled Non-Resident Students. This is a draft policy. The notes in this policy are we currently have 5 non-resident students, with 1 student having a sibling that will enter pre-K next year. And those 5 non-resident student breakdowns are 2 in pre-K, 1 in kindergarten, 1 in 4th grade, and 1 in 7th grade. There was new language added for non-resident student families enrolled prior to October 1, 2024, and that was to be able to grandfather those current students into the policy. Policy number 3421, Title IX and Sex Discrimination. This was a referral back to the 2020 version of this policy. This was a special alert update from Erie 1, which recommends that the Board of Education follow the previous version to replace the Erie 1 update from 2024, which was updated on January 16th of this year. And the policy, as you see it in the link, was a draft policy per Ferrara. Under new business policies, Mr. Peretta requested a review of 6191, staff use of computerized information resources. We had some discussion on this policy, and we decided that we need some more information to move forward to discuss this policy. And then there was a new draft policy for review titled MCS Graduation Ceremony Standards. From the draft, we had a few notes. We recommend expanding the language of the first bullet point in that policy to include recognition of non-graduates should be done at a different venue. And then a recommendation to the policy title, changing it to something like June Graduation Ceremony Standards. As we had some discussion that we didn't want some of these policy standards to also interfere with some of the longevity in the processes of the August graduation ceremony. And then the following policies were review only with no updates. Policy 5210, revenues, 5220, district investments, and 5230, acceptance of gifts, grants, and bequests to the school district. And all review only, no updates.
Title IX and are you recommending that we draft policy that Ferrara gave us, or go back to the 2020 policy? Because they're different. It's different.
Ron, I'll refer to you on that one.
Yep. So we talked quite a bit with our attorney at Ferrara, and her recommendation is to go with the policy that they put forth. The language is very simple. It's clear. It avoids any political discussion, as it might be given the current climate. and we already have policies that address all those other issues in our policy manual. So the advice of our attorney was this should replace it because we already have all that other language is there in the existing policy already, and this should avoid any potential federal scrutiny. But when I say that, I want to reiterate what I said before. Every one of our kids is going to be accepted and valued here, regardless of the political nonsense that's taking place in our country as it relates to kids. Every child, as far as I'm going to be the leader here, and I think my entire team would say the same, we are committed to every one of our individual students and making sure that they are welcome when they cross that door into our school building. 100%.
So I just want to be clear. So the question was, where did the policy come from? And you said they, and then you said legals directed us to adopt the language because it was clear and concise. So I'm looking at, I printed off this one. Where did this come from? Because it just says district example policy. It doesn't have where this is from.
Right. So Trish, if I can go back a little bit, we had a policy from 2020,
Yes.
which we replaced last year with the 2024 policy per the advice of Erie 1 BOCES.
Yes.
And that was based on the Biden administration interpretation of Title IX.
Yes.
We know that has changed.
Yes.
And quite frankly, we really don't know what the law of the land is. So in reviewing both of those, and they are conflicting to an extent,
Yes.
we sent that back to Ferrara and said, do we go with the 2020 policy or the 2024? Ferrara said, how about neither? Take this language instead, which matches the same, it accomplishes the same work as that policy, as those two policies, but it protects us either, regardless if it's the 2020 Title IX or the 2024 Title IX. It protects our students along with the district. So that language, that draft language you're looking at, is the language that Ferrara is recommending to the schools that subscribe to their policy service. And I always think when it comes to policies of this type of nature, having the attorneys who would be representing us in a lawsuit, creating and helping us draft our policy makes a whole lot more sense than having attorneys who will not be representing us through Erie 1. So to me, it's the safest way that we can go, while again, still affording the protections to our kiddos.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions? I think that was the only one that I had. Okay, if not, we will move on to, I guess, my report. Just a couple of quick things. The reason that we're all here tonight as opposed to our normal sort of Thursday gathering day, it has to do with our vote on later tonight on the BOCES administrative budget and the BOCES board candidates. If you open the link, the bulleted link under BOCES administrative budget approval, I believe it's pages 10 through 12, has the breakdown of the entire administrative budget. That is all that we're going to be voting on. All of the programmatic monies, our districts pay for what they need to purchase, essentially, the services that they bought through BOCES. And all we're needing to vote on tonight is the administrative portion of the BOCES budget. The BOCES candidates are also linked. They had complete bios. We had certainly plenty of time to look those over. And there are 3 candidates and there are 3 bios for us. So we'll be voting on those a little bit later. We have also the proposed schedule for Board of Education meetings here locally for next academic year, next school year, 25-26. Those can always change if conditions warrant. And the last thing that I have is on, I believe it was the 22nd, I witnessed the ballot order drawing that we would normally have done at this meeting tonight, but there wasn't enough time for the legal process to take place, so we held that back in Ashley's office on April 22nd, and the ballot order turned out to be candidate number 1 will be Robert LeBlanc, candidate number 2, Michael Ortman, candidate number 3, Bruce Beckstead, number 4, Charles Sears, and number 5, Timothy Hayes. And that's the order that the candidates for Board of Education will appear on the ballot. And that is all that I have. So we'll turn things over to Mr. Burke and reports from administration.
If I could real quickly, just comment on the administrative budget from BOCES, because it always, I think, bothers the public when they hear the administrative budget and you look at that price tag of $9-point-some million. However, when you look at the line items here, it's, I think, extremely important that we understand what makes up the vast majority of that administrative budget, and that is that 1,900 unclassified, which is some of the RAND's interest, but $7.6 million is the retiree health insurance for BOCES. Not all BOCES will present their administrative budget this way or compute their admin budget this way. The value of our BOCES doing this, which is what the law requires, or regulations require, is that the administrative budget is fully BOCES aidable. Now that means something different for all 18 component schools, but for us, that means our share of this budget, we get approximately 80 to 83% of that money back from Albany. Again, that's not consistent with all 18 schools because we all have different BOCES aid ratios. Whereas if a BOCES were to take all the CTE retirees and put them under the CTE bill, and that in terms of that health insurance, we would not get any aid on that. So again, there's a real value for our BOCES following the regulation and putting those dollars here. And again, we're talking a $9-point-some million budget. 7.8 of that is on post-retirement benefits. It's not all going to administrators. And again, I know I think it's just important that we get that out there, that what we're really looking at as a board to vote on here later on this evening. Okay, under my real report then, bus utilization request from Louisville Summer Rec. I think they're looking for the bus, I believe it's 2 times at the same rate of compensation as last year. I fully support. We also have a number of donations to the district. Nightingale 4-H trip, $3,520. That's from the Adirondack for Kids. $3,000 from Alcoa Action Grant towards the Nightingale Musical. $250 from Bears Den Foundation for the Jefferson Musical. Another $250 donation for the Jefferson Musical from Northern Credit Union. $50 from MX Fuels for the Jefferson Musical. And a secretarial desk from SLL BOCES, which we have reutilized in our HR department. So, I do want to thank those community groups that are stepping forward, especially the support that we've been getting for our elementary musicals has been quite overwhelming. Groups and people are being asked, and they are just stepping right up. We also have a donation from the Madison Parents Group to replace the sign up there. The post will remain the same. We're really just replacing the actual sign with the owl. It'll be the same size and just going right in place of it. And then finally, every year we do have to ask for the board's permission to dispose of the ballots from the prior year's annual election. So that's on there as well for your consideration. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burke. Any questions for him?
Just saw, it's kind of a random question regarding the musicals, but does that money get balanced out from Jefferson to Nightingale to all the schools? It seems like sometimes it's all coming in for one school. Does it get balanced out in the end, so every school gets some of the money, or is it really that differentiated?
We had a couple of donations last month as well, and I don't remember which school they went to. And it really depends on, so we have one person who's very heavily involved in the Jefferson musical, and she's been out canvassing, getting as much as she could, requesting for Jefferson specifically. You'll notice Nightingale's not on here real frequently for their musical. They're established, so they have rollover money from prior year ticket admissions, which is paying for that. So a lot of this is really seed money to get going. The rights to the musical, rights to the scenery that's going to flash on the projector, and even some costuming. But I have not heard that any one of the three schools is doing without at this point.
Okay.
For the productions. And that actually starts this Saturday and goes the next 3 Saturdays. So that's a great plug as well.
Awesome.
And this auditorium, I think, will probably be filled for all 3 events.
So all 3 elementary schools are the next 3 weekends?
Each
Is that right?
Saturday, yes.
Each Saturday?
Yep.
Great. Great.
Great opportunities for our kids.
Any other questions for Ron? All right, let's move on to recommended actions. I do have the consent agenda here in front of me. Are there any items from the consent agenda that anyone would like to have pulled for further discussion and a separate vote? I have a couple. I'd like to have the June graduation standards, the advanced coursework, and artificial intelligence. I've got a couple of questions on each of those that I would like addressed. Does anyone have anything else?
Paul, can you do those? You have 4. Can you just do those slowly again? The June graduation standards.
The June graduation standards. So that's policy 7223. The other 7223, which is kind of the reason I want it pulled, advanced coursework, and 5840 artificial intelligence. Any other consent agenda items that anyone would like to have pulled? Okay, hearing none, I would like to call for a motion to have the consent agenda approved with the exception of 7223 June graduation standards, 7223 advanced coursework, and 5840 artificial intelligence.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, moving on to our separate items for action. First is approval of the BOCES administrative budget for 2025-26.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Appointment and approval of the BOCES board candidates for 25-26.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Approval of the 25-26 local Board of Education meeting schedule.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the Louisville Summer Recreation Program bus request.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Approval of the Madison Elementary sign replacement.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Approval of the resolution to dispose ballots.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, that passes. Approval of the memorandum of agreement with the MFT.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so we are looking for approval of the first reading of the June graduation ceremony standards, policy 7223. Motion, please.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? I guess it's more of a comment than a question. I guess I'm not really comfortable with the ironclad nature of the no exceptions part of the third bullet point. Graduation diplomas will be delivered to graduates by sitting Board of Education members present at the ceremony and the superintendent, no exceptions. When we start getting too ironclad, I think we start losing some of the flexibility with this event. And I have felt for a number of years, and I may have mentioned it, perhaps going back to a few years ago, that rather than limiting who can give diplomas to students, I think we should be making an effort to give teachers and staff at the school who have children who are graduating the opportunity to let them give them their diplomas. So I'm not comfortable with the no exceptions to board members only giving diplomas to graduates. That's my only trepidation with this policy.
And don't take this as a criticism. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
So the Board of Education is who is conferring the degree. We are saying these students have met all of these requirements, whereas a teacher doesn't confer that it's not that body. So it would be like, if I had to do an analogy, it would be like instead of a judge saying, okay, here is the penalty, whatever that is, versus one of the lawyers doing that. Like, they don't, that's not their function, that's not their role. And, I understand what you're saying, but
I'll play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it's the board. It's not the board conferring or telling agreeing or saying to the state that these graduates have you know, made certain standards. It's either the high school principal or it's the superintendent. Is that correct?
It is
Or
actually,
is it the board?
it is actually the high school superintendent who is
The district, it would
is-
be you,
Well, no, it's really the high school principal.
high school principal,
They are the
okay.
ones who are attesting that these students have met all the
Attesting.
qualifications for graduation. So it is the high school principal who's actually, and that's why they say at the end of, you know, when all the diplomas are handed out, that's why the high school says, by the authority vested in me by the state of New York, blah, 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 you have now graduated. I don't know the exact language at the other end of that. But that's why the high school principal is the one who has to state that at the end.
I thought he was presenting it to the board,
They
and the
say spec-
board is saying, yes, we're taking you at your word, and that these people are, I'm just trying to be clear.
I believe he says specifically that he presents it to the board and the superintendent. That's part of the speech.
Right, he's
that's given.
presenting it to the board and the
Presenting to class
superintendent.
I attest that they have
Met all.
met all these requirements.
I don't expect to change any minds. I just, I wanted to give my input on this standard.
And it might slow things down. Like, what if, when my son graduated, I was still a teacher here. What if I had said, no, I want to give the diploma to my son? So then I have to come out of the audience. I have to come up onto the stage. I have to, you know what I mean? I'm just thinking like,
It would have to be choreographed in such a way that
Well,
a delay didn't happen.
yeah.
St. Lawrence University has always allowed any faculty member or staff member who has a student graduating to, you know, they get in line and they step in and they give the diploma, and
I see.
it's not any slower than it would be if the president of the university were doing it.
Okay.
Well, we typically, as a board at graduation, we send a notice out ahead of time who we wish to give diplomas to, or who's asked us to give diplomas to their students. And we send those lists ahead of time. And you were speaking about well choreographed, and I haven't seen that be very well choreographed yet. And so if we add in every single student's individual, I don't see that as working very well at all. And the other part of that statement in that policy was, we are the duly elected representatives of the community to hand that certification to them that we accept you as a community. So,
No, I understand.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work on this, and I appreciate the fact that you did that. I'm just not as comfortable as I'd like to be with the term "no exceptions."
what I've
That's-
witnessed in my time is the minute that you have an exception, it's gonna go all hell sideways. Because there's no boundaries. And there's gonna be just exceptions. That's what we've witnessed. We've seen it spread and creep all over the place. So,
I've said my piece, so I'm satisfied.
yeah.
We have a motion and a second on policy. This is the second reading. No, sorry, first reading, correct? Oh,
For that policy number. Where it's listed, it should have been, I believe if I heard it right, it should have been 7224, not 72, should have been duplicate of the 7223s.
well, there's another 7223 as well, advanced coursework. 7224 is virtual instruction. Yes. And we don't have to approve for renumbering.
But I think it's supposed to be, tell me if I'm wrong, Ashley, I think it's supposed to be 7220. Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
and we can create new policy numbers, and we don't have to approve them. So whether it's a duplicate number now doesn't really matter.
Okay.
We'll straighten it out in the policy manual.
okay.
So, motion and a second on the floor for the June graduation standards. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to, the duplicate number was really the only question that I had on advanced coursework. So don't worry about that. The 5840 artificial intelligence, sorry, excuse me, we do have to approve that. Could I ask for a motion on the advanced coursework, and that is also a first reading? That's a second reading, so it'd be second reading and adoption
So
for
move for
that policy.
7223.
All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And I pulled artificial intelligence simply to ask clarification. Which policy services template did we use for that, Zach? Was that the NISBA policy? Because I think that was the one that Joyce wanted to, she was the one who was very much in favor of getting an AI policy on the books. You remember, Mr. Burke?
Might not have been at that meeting.
I believe that was the initial draft policy from Erie 1,
Okay.
I believe, but I want to confirm that by going back and looking. I don't know that I've seen the actual NISBA
Okay.
draft.
All right. Well, that was my only question on that. So the, the AI policy, that's also a second reading and adoption. So it was Erie 1? Okay, thank you. I would like to call for a motion for the approval of the artificial intelligence policy, please. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And I think that's it, with the exception of approval of personnel action items. Mr. Burke.
So I would recommend approval of all personnel action items, but I would ask that we hold on numbers 33 and numbers 36 for separate votes.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That carries.
And then I would recommend numbers 33 and 36 together.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. That concludes our business. Do we have any items that board members would like to see on a future agenda?
I would like to bring something to consider. I noticed that we don't always recognize groups or of the with an awards. Remember, we did it in the fall. We did it a few times. That it's very precious to me. There's so many good actions, so many good people, good groups that go unnoticed, and I feel that we should take our regular meeting, our presence, to recognize those people. A group could be assistant teacher, could be a worker, could be a small dance group, for example, that did something special that represents the value of Massena Raiders, of our district, and I would like to put them on the forefront and recognize them officially at each of our meetings. So we didn't have one today, and we didn't have one last week or last month. I was wondering if it would be possible to always take the time to recognize an entity. It doesn't have to be a teacher, it doesn't have to be a student, but I would like to search for take the time for us to search for who shows the values of the district and promote them, give them a certificate. I would like to give them a trophy or something that they would proudly show that they represent the spirit of Massena District School.
If I could make a suggestion, instead of us doing that, or Ron doing that, or somebody else taking on another role, et cetera, what if we say that the groups can submit to our student ex officio, and then have that person be responsible for contacting, finding out more about it, and
Yep.
then maybe when she meets or he meets with the administrator,
Yep.
then decide who, and I think probably we need a policy to go with that.
And then recommend.
Robert, that it would be, here are the things that we as Massena Central try to promote, and then it would be looking at all of the different
Values.
groups and who best fits that.
And it would change. It wouldn't be usually it wouldn't be somebody who scored the most point or the win. It's something else that more discreet that don't shine, people that don't shine. And I would like to start each meeting with something positive like this.
Right.
I think it would bring some life to our meeting,
Right.
would bring some crowd also. And yes, that would be a good idea, that she would work on it, work on the recommendation and bring it to Mr. Byrne.
Isn't that already with our administrators to bring that forward to us? If they have something special going on in their school or a special group, that it's there for them to bring that to us, and we've recognized people in the past. I mean, I don't know if we need to go through a policy to do something that the administrators, it's right there for them to do right now. Just, if they see something special going on in their district, we should encourage them to bring that to us. As the administrator, they come that night and they bring those people that they want recognized with them, and we take care of that. I think they're the ones that are going to notice what's going on in their buildings, and I think it's already in place. We just need to ask them to make sure we recognize those people.
Okay.
I'm with Tim
I
on
would
that.
concur.
So since there's nothing that we skipped a few months, I'd like to maybe encourage that we bring something more often.
Yeah, so certainly next month we'll be recognizing, I believe it's our top academic leaders. And then after that, I don't want to give out too much yet, but I'm still trying to see how this one team finishes. And it's not an athletic team. I think that's the danger. I think we do want to avoid, bringing in the Section 10 championship team. I think the groups that we've honored so far really have risen above. It wasn't just about academics, or it wasn't just about athleticism. It really represented what we value. These are the types of things we'd love to hear about every one of our 2,500 students. And I think that's really important. So I think sometimes it's okay to have a month or two off to make it, kind of what Mrs. Struntz was saying at the beginning. Do we have something just to have something, or should it be something really special where we're recognizing those musicians that we recognized earlier this year? I mean, quite frankly, that's insane that we had that much talent win that high of a competition. That is something that's truly remarkable. And watching our girls volleyball team come in, again, they truly went above and beyond representing our school. And again, it just brings a smile to my face. Volleyball has suddenly become one of my favorite sports just because of our Massena team, what they present on the court. Again, those are so incredibly special. I'd like to try to keep it as special. I think, Robert, though, that does mean we can look a little bit harder, so we don't have a 2-3 month drought of bringing people in. And I think that's if the board will allow us to do that, I think when it comes to employees, we do have to be a little bit careful because of, it could be looked at favoritism or some jealousy going on, and sometimes we don't always know, maybe what that one is doing. Certainly, and then I'll say it right now, can we talk about the cafeteria staff when they put on that really special meal? Absolutely. And we can recognize them for that too. So again, going way above and beyond, especially as a department. But again, we have to be careful too, because I also have, about 40 bus drivers who somehow magically get our kids here and get them home safely. So again, we have to be careful. It's really got to be extraordinary, I think. That's why I really like to keep right to the kids, because those are the heart and soul of everything that we do. And when we can recognize our students, that's always the best. We've got a lot of students to recognize.
Any other suggestions for future agenda items? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
All in favor? Have a great night.
You too.